Bogna, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule out in the field to chat to me today. I suppose if we could just start by maybe could you explain to me a little bit about what the project is and who's involved and how long it's been running for?
Okay, so well, first of all, my name is Bogna Griffin, and thank you so much for awarding us this small conservation grant for the work that we're doing, and hopefully we'll improve on everything with the help of the grant. So just to explain what we're trying to do. We are hoping, well, I am hoping to train my dog, Doby, he's a Bernese mountain dog, to become a conservation dog for sniffing out crayfish, basically. Now, going back to why and how and what. I work for National Crayfish Plague Surveillance Program, and I've been passionate about crayfish, I suppose, for the last oh, number of years. And crayfish, they're not very cuddly, but they're a very important part of the ecosystem. So in Ireland, we actually only have one native crayfish species, they're white claw crayfish. And they're little, well, they look like freshwater lobsters. So for people that don't know what a crayfish looks like, it's just like a little freshwater lobsters. They're crustaceans, they're invertebrates, and they're a very important part of the ecosystem. Now, historically in Ireland, we had the highest population of crayfish in Europe and the healthiest population of crayfish in Europe. And it was the case until 2015 when crayfish started dying out. Um, they contracted a disease called a very unfortunate crayfish plague. So crayfish plague is an invasive species in itself, and it's usually spread, now it's a water mold, so it spreads on wet surfaces, usually comes from invasive crayfish species from America, where they're immune, the American crayfish species are immune to the disease, but our native crayfish are not. Now, the very interesting part of it is that we have the disease, but we're the only country in Europe that don't have non-native crayfish species, which leads us to believe that it's people that spread the disease. So it could be anything from wet fishing gear that you would put in the back of the car and then drive to the next river and spread it that way. They spread by spores, and the spores can survive on wet surfaces for 2 weeks. So it could be Wellingtons, wet fishing gear, boats, machinery going into the river, or people going in and out of the river. So s- now crayfish are protected. They're protected in Ireland. They're protected in Europe, the white claw crayfish under Habitat Directive, but they're also protected by the Wildlife Act in Ireland. So we do have to report on the status of crayfish, but we also do need to care about the crayfish because they are an important part of the ecosystem. What happens when you do remove them from the ecosystem? The whole ecosystem breaks down. So they might not be nice and cuddly and furry and nice looking, but they're important source of food for things, the cuddly things like the otter. So what happens, and they eat detritus, so they clean up the rivers basically. And when you remove them, there's no one to clean up the river, but also there's no food for the otters, so they start eating things like juvenile fish, and then the fish can't grow to full size, they can't reproduce, and the whole ecosystem just falls apart. So even though they're not cuddly, they are important. Um, so going back to why we have to do this conservation work or the survey work, it's very hard to look for crayfish. They live under stones, they live in vegetation in the river, and The traditional surveying methods is basically going into the bushes, going into the river, and turning stones over, doing net sweeps. And that involves a lot of work, but it also involves getting into the actual river where we know the disease that's affecting them spreads by movement of water. So we are trying to avoid getting into the river of all by all costs. The method that we currently use in Ireland for surveying for crayfish is uses environmental DNA. So basically, we filter the water, we extract DNA from the filter, and then we test it for the crayfish and also for the disease. And it's a nice method because you can just filter the water from a bridge, and then it allows you not getting into the river. Now, as any novel method, I suppose there has to be another method to compare it to. So for the last few years, I've been comparing the environmental DNA with traditional methods. So ecologists were getting into the river, and we were trying to compare the results. Now, as you can imagine, on a day like today, nice summer day, it's nice to get into the river. They're shallow, they're not fast flowing, but any other day, sometimes it's just impossible to get into the river. So comparison of those two methods didn't really work. Now I've been training my dog with canine detect and find for man trailing for the last 2 years. So we've been going to Wexford to Rachel Morris for 2 years now, training to find people. Um, it's more of a sport than anything else. But while sampling, Doby always comes with me.
Yeah.
So and he's a very important part of the team. So he's a Bernese Mountain Dog. He's a working dog. He likes to be important. He always sits and protects me and looks very important. So um, while training in Wexford with Rachel, I was thinking, well, conservation dogs are a thing. Um, I think in Ireland, conservation dogs are very underutilized, and you hear of conservation dogs being used on wind farms to find bats or to find birds. Um, but looking for aquatic species, it's not really a done thing. I haven't heard of too many projects using conservation dogs in the water. And also, I suppose we have an added problem here where I don't want Dobby to get into the river. We don't want him to get into the river and spread the plague itself.
Yeah.
So what I'm hoping to is to get Dobby to sniff out the crayfish from a riverside or a bridge. So while I'm sampling for the crayfish in the river through filtering the water, he
Yeah.
could walk along the bridge and give me an indication, are the crayfish there or not?
Yeah.
So sorry, that was a
No, not
that
at
was
all.
a
It's
long
fascinating.
story.
And no, no, and it's really, really interesting. And you explained it really clearly, really well. Like it was some of it was new concepts to me, some of it were things I'd heard about before, but I'm sure maybe for others watching, they mightn't have heard of maybe eDNA before, or
Yeah,
some of the other techniques, or even actually the crayfish, because I don't think our native crayfish is even very well highlighted and publicized, to be honest.
definitely not.
So
No.
I'd I'd wager a bit of money that if you were to take a survey of 100 people on the street, that many of them may not have even actually heard of our native crayfish or understand the role it plays in the ecosystem. So no, thanks, Bogna. I think that was really, really useful. Can I ask, I think, we thought your project idea was so exciting when we received it. Um like how will the small conservation grant help you with this work?
So the grant will be great to enable us to do some residential training with Rachel Morris in Wexford with the Can I Detect and Find Ireland.
Yeah.
So she will be able to to train us as a team. So myself and Doby will train as a team because
yeah,
we are a team, and one doesn't go without the other. Uh, but we need to both learn to read each other's body language, I suppose. So Rachel
yeah,
trains a lot of detection dogs, including cadaver dogs, and she was kind of saying, well, you sampled the rivers, so let's train Dobby on the boat. And I was thinking, well, the boat isn't really an option for us because we're trying to avoid getting into the water. So it's the grant will enable us to go down to Wexford and stay with her and basically train one-to-one basis, so we can learn to detect the crayfish in a more challenging conditions. So
yeah,
basically just detect it from the water, from the bridge, as
yeah,
opposed to finding the actual animals.
yeah,
Because it's actually more difficult. It's
yeah,
easier to find something, a physical animal,
yeah,
where I need Dobby to indicate the presence or absence of
yeah.
the animals in the water without actually getting near them.
Yeah. God, it sounds amazing. It'll be, I suppose either way, it'll be just very interesting to get the training and to research the proof of concept, I suppose, if it is possible or not. As you said, if it's an underutilized tool in this country, then maybe this work can help, towards the future of it. Um, Bogna, finally, can I just ask if people are interested in the work that you and Dobby are doing, and they want to follow you, or they want, yeah, just to follow along with your journey, is there a way that they can connect in with you? Do you share posts anywhere else or information anywhere else?
So Dobby has an Instagram account, and he's much more active on Instagram than I am. So I'll give you. So his Instagram handle is Dobby, Doby underscore Bernice. Um, and he's very active on Instagram. I'm not so much. However, you can also look me up on LinkedIn, and we're
Yeah,
hoping to update our journey, I suppose, through social
yeah,
media, and share some videos, and some. We're very excited about the project, so
yeah,
we're hoping to share as much as possible with the public.
yeah,
Um, and I suppose, to show people that not only, there is this idea, I think, that conservation dogs or detection dogs have to be a special breed, or
yeah,
like I was thinking, well, does that mean that if I want to do this work, I'll have to get a Springer Spaniel? Because it
yeah,
seems like Spaniels, they're
yeah,
the hunting dogs, I suppose, or the scent dogs are the best dogs. But as Rachel actually explained to me, Dobby is great for the work because he's steady and he's calm, and he wants to please, and he wants to work,
oh, yeah,
and he wants to
yeah,
feel important. So he's actually perfect for the job because he won't get bored sitting on the
yeah,
bridge. He doesn't want to run around in circles, sniffing out more and more. I just need him to tell me one way or another.
yeah,
And I suppose, the beauty about dogs is that they don't lie. They don't make up stories. They don't
yeah,
give you false results. It's either there or not. So once we figure out how to give the perfect indication, so once I can read him and he
yeah,
can read me, um, we can prove that it does work. So just
yeah,
just to tell you, we actually started a little bit of training last year. We
yeah,
just weren't able to do the full kind of residential immersion in
yeah,
the training, because of lack of funds. But um, with the very little training that he received last year, I brought him sampling with me last year, and out of 4 rivers, he indicated, well, I thought, well, he looks interested. So I thought, well,
yeah,
maybe he indicated. And then I tested the samples, and there was
yeah,
crayfish in the river that he indicated on, and there weren't crayfish in the others.
yeah.
So first I thought, well, maybe it was just a fluke, but that's how our journey started, and hopefully,
Amazing.
we can prove this concept, and it will make everyone's life so much easier.
Yeah.
I'm sure, you know who doesn't like a nice cuddly dog to something with them?
To work with them. And I
Yeah,
suppose the other thing as well is if it's something that could be maybe expanded on as well in the future. So,
definitely.
if there's an example there, if there's a trial there that shows how it was done, the results, then it's something that can be scaled up, so
Definitely.
on a local level. So, and it could even potentially be it could be local people in the future then with their dogs as
Exactly.
well.
It
So,
could be, it could be scaled up. And I suppose because with the crayfish program, we actually sampled 28 catchments across the
yeah,
country. So, the potential is massive. If
yeah,
if this concept works, it could be scaled up to, to
yeah,
the whole national level, I
yeah,
suppose. And probably, well, hopefully in the future, I know those people were already asking, can we
yeah,
train Dobby to detect crayfish and also the plague? But
yeah,
that's next
yeah,
year's program. Once
yeah,
we get the crayfish, then we
yeah,
can look into further detection, because dogs are amazing. They're
yeah,
they're being used all over the world for conservation, but also medical purposes. They can
yeah,
sniff out anything, and
yeah,
they really are underutilized, although that's probably not a nice word to use. But their potential isn't explored, I think, to the
yeah.
full scale.
Yeah, and if it's done in a way, I mean, you're working with, as you said, you're working with Dobby, you're a team. It's
Yes,
and it's and it's actually giving Dobby, he's enjoying it as well. So
yes,
it's not like he's being exploited anyway. He's
definitely
just,
not.
yeah, yeah, he's
Definitely
just,
not.
you're just building on his potential. So
Yeah, and he's a working dog. He wants to work, and he
yeah,
feels.
yeah,
I know he's a very important part of the team.
yeah.
He's a massive part of the team, and if he can contribute more, I'm sure he'd be only delighted.
Brilliant. Well, I'm definitely going to follow him on Instagram. Thank you, Bogna.
Brilliant.
Um,
Thank you so
Bogna,
much.
thank you so much for your time today. We will look forward to sharing this and following along with you and Dobby's journey as it develops. Best
Thanks
of
so
luck
much,
with all the
Maureen.
training and all the sampling.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the grant. It will help us to move this along. So thanks so much.
No problem. Take care, Bogna. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.